Hey guys, my name's Jaron Moore. I'm the producer for Legend of Zelda: Symphony of the Goddesses, and I'm here with Patrick Thorpe, editor of Hyrule Historia and all things Dark Horse Comics. We're here to talk about anything and everything Zelda, passions about music, video games, comics, and just basically inform you about the upcoming show, which is on November 1st at 8 o'clock in New York City at the Madison Square Garden Theater. Yeah, let's get started. We have some questions already coming in. I guess let's pick one. As a note, my son is obsessed with the soundtrack that came with the Skyward Sword game. Thanks for introducing my young one to classical music. Is mixing music and gaming an attempt to get kids back into classical, or is that just a happy accident? That's a good question. It's not a happy accident. Myself and our music director Chad Sider grew up just being in love with classical music and orchestral concert music, and of course we grew up playing video games, and Zelda was a huge inspiration for us. And so when we were coming up with the idea for a concert tour focused solely on Zelda, in the process of pitching that to the good folks at Nintendo of America and Nintendo Japan, it so happened that the 25th anniversary was coming up, and they wanted us to collaborate with them to produce some special events and additional products to kind of go out in line with that. And so one of those things was the CD that shipped with Skyward Sword, you know, it's been a great way to introduce children and young adults to orchestral music that love the melodies from this franchise, and likewise, it's been a great way to introduce people who love orchestral music and classical to a franchise that they might not have been exposed to in the past. So,
should we have our participants ask any questions? Or?
Yeah, so we have Mark here with us today, and we got Matt Fisher, and we've got Russell. Thanks, guys, for joining us. The five of us together will be wielding our enthusiasm for Zelda and having an epic discussion. I don't know, what do you want to talk about, guys?
Go ahead, Mark.
Oh, I was just curious. You were just saying that you know, having the classical music for Zelda is a way to get people who are interested in classical music aware of video games. Are you finding that any of them are becoming big fans of playing the games? Or are they kind of just brushing that by?
It's a funny thing. We have a lot of with the Symphony of the Goddesses show, and also with the CD, which has motivated a lot of people to come out and see the touring concert series. We have kids dragging their grandparents and their parents, and likewise, you know, we've got parents who know of a loose, kind of interest in Zelda that their kids might have, but they didn't know about the concert series. And so we've got a lot of people coming out, and the one thing that we always hear, surprisingly, from older audience members is that they had no idea that this music had so much depth, that it was so powerful. And it gives them a much better appreciation for video games as an art form, and the Legend of Zelda as an actual enriching story.
That's really cool. One of my questions was, were you guys big fans of video game soundtracks in general, or was there something specific about Zelda that stuck out to you musically?
I don't know, Patrick. What about Zelda music?
Well, let's see. To answer your question, I was a big fan of all video game music, starting back with the Nintendo. I think one of the soundtracks that really sticks out in my mind has got to be Mega Man 3. I remember taking a tape player and recording each one of the stages and then playing it back to myself to go to sleep. Ninja Gaiden was another one, the Metroid series, but Zelda seemed to me to have like one of those really just enduring, moving themes that stuck with me my entire life. And I'll stop what I'm doing when I hear that next version of it, whether it was the jump from the original to Zelda 2 or Link to the Past. I'm always looking for that main theme. So I guess I've always been a fan of video game music for as far back as I can remember.
It's funny, you're the second person I've talked to this week, just totally randomly, that said that they would record their Nintendo onto like a cassette tape, and just walk around. And I was talking to a guy the other day who raps like over Mega Man soundtrack, old Mega Man soundtracks.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah, and
well,
he was
I'm glad I'm not the only one that records that stuff.
Yeah, he was
Blaster Master
as well.
Nice. Blaster Master was another one that I thought was fantastic.
Yeah, I never thought I wish I would have done it. I always loved the music, but I never thought to just record.
It's not too late.
Yeah, I guess I could.
My mother actually spoiled me when I was a kid and took me to a Sam's Club, and they had a soundtrack section. And somehow, some way, Konami had published a soundtrack for Castlevania.
Oh wow!
For Castlevania 1 and Castlevania 2: Simon's Quest, and that was the A side, and the B side was Contra.
No way!
Nice.
So that was my first video game soundtrack. That was like when I was 8 years old.
I'm writing this down.
Nice.
It was incredible.
Do you guys follow like kind of the chiptune music scene now? Like a lot of the newer bands that are using 8-bit and.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I recently went to my first Anamanaguchi show. It was insane.
Oh, wow.
Big name in that. But the other thing I wanted to ask was who's the original, or I don't know, who originally wrote the music for Zelda? Is it Koji Kondo?
Yes. Yeah,
Okay.
the man himself.
Yeah, nice.
So.
It's like the only thing I can't find on Spotify is like just a straight up Koji Kondo,
Yeah, he's an international man of mystery. We have some questions coming in from the Hangout. Let's see. Who is this? Christina Gonzalez says she's asking, with only a year between NYC appearances, what can we expect that's different and worth coming back for? So what's coming back to New York is Symphony of the Goddess's Second Quest, which is our second Quest show, our second season program, and we've introduced over a half hour of new material. So we've kept all the mainstays, all the main themes that make The Legend of Zelda Zelda, but we've actually excised quite a bit of material and refreshed it with new and exciting melodies and visiting games that we didn't have a chance to the first time. So definitely come out if you're fans of Skyward Sword, Link's Awakening, Spirit Tracks, Wind Waker. We've got all new stuff. Let's see. Jaron and Patrick from Jess Fruit. How do you guys know each other? Did Zelda bring you two together?
Aww. Yeah, it did. It did, as a matter of fact, because I was working on Hyrule Historia at the same time that Jaron was doing Symphony of the Goddesses, and they were coming through Portland, and we were setting up a signing to do at Symphony of the Goddesses, and that was the very first time that I met Jaron. Was a couple of days before?
Yeah.
And then we became close friends after that, and actually he moved up to Portland, which is where Dark Horse and I live, so Zelda did bring us together, I guess. So.
quite literally.
Yeah.
So.
I don't know, without giving away too many industry secrets, I guess, what's the association between Nintendo and Dark Horse? Is that a complicated relationship, or is it easy?
No, it's totally easy. Nintendo's great to work with. And basically, what we're doing is sub-licensing The Legend of Zelda Hyrule Historia. So it's the same if you were working with, say, like we do the Star Wars comics as well, and so it's the same, like Lucasfilm sublicenses Star Wars to Dark Horse in the same way that Nintendo sublicenses Zelda to us. So.
Yeah, I always wondered about that. Stuff like that, process stuff like that on the business side interests me, but I don't want to bore the Hangout with.
It's not boring at all. In fact, I'd been pursuing them for a very long time to see, if we could get together on a book or a project, because I've been a Nintendo kid for my entire life. I grew up on Nintendo games, and we were doing a lot of video game art books. So I pitched them about 100, and eventually they relented, and we got to do Hyrule Historia.
Do you think they feel like that's a way to keep intellectual properties alive? Because I know there's like a Mega Man comic, there's Street Fighter comics. I mean, is that something that Nintendo actively pursues, do you feel like?
Nintendo generally doesn't do a whole lot of print stuff. And actually the Mega Man comics are Capcom, and Capcom does a whole lot more of that kind of stuff. Udon Studios puts out art books, and they put out like video game comics and things, which are fantastic. The artwork and the writing in there is really top notch. But Nintendo really plays a lot of things close to the vest, and so they want to put out the highest quality stuff that they can. And so when they think that there's a really good opportunity where they can put out something high quality with, something like in conjunction with the 25th anniversary, which was Hyrule Historia is the 25th anniversary Zelda book. They figured this was the perfect time to put out this huge tome. So really, for them, it's more about quality than it is about upkeep.
Okay, cool.
Let's take another question. We've got a question from Literature in the Plus. What kind of music do you guys listen to? Any pop culture artists currently you like? I know Anna Managuchi does a really cool interpretation of video game music. I did not know that. That's cool. Or maybe I haven't. I've heard it, but I'm not recalling it right now. Pop culture artists. I listen to whatever's on the radio when I'm just driving around. But when it comes down to it, I'm just a huge film score and video game music geek. So my entire collection of music revolves around just orchestral, instrumental story music. It lights my imagination on fire, and it's really what inspired me to get in.
Who was your inspiration, or who do you like best composer-wise?
Jerry Goldsmith is probably my favorite all-time film composer. He was actually a huge inspiration for Chad Sider and I when we were approaching the music for Zelda and looking to interpret it for the stage and for the concert setting. So you'll hear a lot of the things that he's best known for are his odd meters, his time signatures, and just some of the interesting things he does that you don't hear in music, at least in film music, a lot these days. Jerry was best known for his music from Star Trek, Total Recall, Rudy, a bunch of stuff, and so he's missed. He passed away a few years ago, but definitely lives on in a lot of different music. So I don't know. What about you?
As far as let's see, pop culture artists and things, I am all over the place. But right now, I'm really into Metric. I like Likey Lee quite a bit. I've been listening to some Bastille. I've recently started dabbling in some country, which is something I hadn't done before. But I like the storytelling quite a bit. But I'm also into soundtracks and things as well. And I listen to a lot of soundtracks while I'm working. So.
What about you guys? What do y'all listen to?
Mark, I want to hear what you listen to.
Oh man, I listen to a bunch of different stuff. I've been listening to Lord Huron lately. What else? Man, I don't have Spotify open, so I don't have my long list. I am curious that C418, he's the composer for Minecraft. Are you guys familiar with him at all?
Yeah, I've heard.
Do you have any thoughts on that guy? I actually really enjoy it. It's like kind of a strange, peaceful. It's not in any way like
it's cool. It's very cathartic music.
Yeah.
I think that's intended. Like, I would probably go nuts if I weren't listening to anything else while playing Minecraft.
Yeah.
So
I've
that's
been
an
listening
interesting
to
psychological tie.
I'm a big country
What about
fan.
you, Russ? What do you listen to? You've been
I
quiet.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I listen to a lot of country music, but I'm a longtime musician, and so I do listen to a lot of like movie soundtrack and instrumental stuff because of like what you were saying. It always has interesting meter and interesting like the way the music flows, and just the different pieces I like to pick apart. And I've tried playing some of it, and a lot of it's a little outside of my range, but it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I think I started to appreciate some of those old Nintendo soundtracks when I picked up a guitar and tried to play the Mario theme. It is ridiculous. It doesn't make any sense to me anyway, because I'm more of a power chords guy.
Right.
So I was just like, this makes.
So you're more of a
no
Hans
sense to me.
Zimmer guy.
I'm more of a Ramones guy.
Okay. Oh, there you go.
Like, literally anything meter. What is meter? I don't even know. Like, as far as what I've been listening to a lot of that guy Random. He goes by Mega Ran, which is like he kind of like manipulates old Mega Man soundtrack stuff and then raps over it, and it's really good because he doesn't just rap about like video games. He raps about real life or whatever, but it's over Mega Man soundtracks. It's pretty cool.
Very cool. I'll have to check him out. Him
Yeah.
out. Let's see. Ashish Shute asks, what are your favorite video games besides the Zelda series, of course?
Oh, gosh.
Who wants to take that one on?
That's such a good question.
Yeah, this is a great one. Luckily, I have some stock answers. Besides the Zelda series, there was a game put out, I think it was by Accolade in 1992, called Star Control 2. That and Starflight really informed the Mass Effect series, which is one of my favorite games of all time. I just like open world sort of sandbox type games. I like all the old Nintendo games because of their difficulty, and you feel like a real sense of accomplishment after that, or after you finish one of those. Gosh, what else? The new BioShock was by far one of my very favorite game experiences. Gosh, the Elder Scrolls series, I've loved all of them. I've been a huge RPG junkie for my entire life. What about you?
I love the Elder Scrolls series. I don't know if it's because I do love the games, but I don't know if it's because I like the games or if it's because one of my best friends actually writes the music for those games, Jeremy Soule, and I love what he's done with that franchise when he was invited to take it over and with Morrowind. So like you, I'm a huge Mass Effect fan. But at my core, I love Nintendo games. That's really what captured my heart at a young age. And so, I mean, Metroid, Star Fox,
Mega Man series, Castlevania.
Well, now you're getting into Capcom and Konami.
Well, yeah, I got you.
But yeah, those as well. I mean, those are kind of my core, including those are kind of my core franchises. So, what about you guys?
I think my favorite game of all time is Link to the Past, which I know it's Zelda, but aside from that, because I play that game every year.
Yeah. We skipped the Zelda games.
No, I'm sorry. I could not say that. That game's ridiculous.
It's my favorite too. Don't feel bad.
Morrowind of the Elder Scrolls series is a big one, and actually like old-fashioned Dungeons and Dragons. Takes away from the video part of the game, but that's a lot of fun. Very open-ended.
I'm a poser. I don't like. I like don't. I mean, I love the old Nintendo games, but I remember when the Wii first came out, I downloaded a bunch of them, and I was just like, I hate being frustrated. I forgot how frustrating this is. I'm like a
There's
hack.
hard and then there's Nintendo hard.
Yeah, and it just took me back to like being a red-faced, like, when you got like tears in your eyes and you're throwing the controller. It's like, I've never. That's not my thing. I'm a button masher guy. I like God of War and like the Batman Arkham games.
Solid series.
Yeah, the Arkham series is really cool. Like Dante's Inferno. I like not bad games. They're beautiful and they have great soundtracks and they look great. But I'm not like an RPG guy. I'm just like a kill stuff guy, I guess.
Cool.
My favorite game, I guess besides Zelda, I think it's really Chrono Trigger back on the Super Nintendo.
Oh,
All
Chrono
right.
Trigger's great.
Right on.
I play that pretty much nonstop. I was homesick from work for like 4 days, so I challenged myself while not being able to get out of bed to get all the different endings. So that's what I did when I was homesick.
Awesome.
Nice.
Chrono Trigger is still the only top-down RPG game I've ever finished in my life.
Really?
Loved it.
That's if it's gonna be one of them, that's
Probably the right one.
I think that's a good one. Let's take another question from out in the ether. Stephanie O'Brien, can you tell us more about the show at Madison Square Garden and what the experience will be like for fans? Definitely. It's just a celebratory atmosphere. We're all there because we love the franchise. We love Zelda. The music tells a wonderful story. It's a great opportunity to meet other people who are into the same thing. My favorite part always is the cosplay. It's on. I kind of liken it to a Renaissance fair, a Zelda-themed Renaissance fair, which is a lot of fun. And
it's interesting too because you also have the Symphony fans who are dressed to the nines as well. So you have suits, and then you have somebody who's dressed as Tingle. It's a very interesting mix.
And and there's no dress code. I mean, come in your shorts and t-shirt if you want.
Yeah,
we just want you there. It's an experience, and hopefully once you've seen an orchestra through the lens of music from Hyrule, it'll encourage you to check out orchestral music in other forms and fashions, whether it's from another game or dial it back a few centuries.
There you go. Yeah.
Talk about some Beethoven. So let's see
Just one more thing on that, because I know that you're always backstage for this, but I got to see it as a fan and in the audience. It's a very moving experience, especially this is a franchise that I personally grew up with, and I know that a lot of other people did too. There were several people around me that were moved to tears just hearing beautiful renditions of some of their very favorite and most accomplished moments in video games and from their childhoods. So
it's funny that you mentioned that, because when we did a show back in Dallas, where I'm from, and it was our second show. I actually hosted the show. I MC the concert, and so I'm out kind of geeking out and talking about the different aspects of the franchise as we make our way through the program, and immediately right out the gate after the overture, I come out and I introduced the whole thing, and I freaking broke down. I got really teary-eyed and kind of had to pull myself together really fast, because I had my family in the audience. I had the Dallas. It was an outdoor concert. It was in downtown. I had the Dallas skyline. My mind went right back to this house that I haven't lived in for more than 20 years. And I'm in my old room playing Zelda, and it just like this flood of emotion just came rushing through, and I all of a sudden my mom and my dad were in the audience, and life has changed so much since then, just things happen, and it was kind of crazy. It's interesting what this music and the power of nostalgia and memory kind of does, and I've seen a lot of fans get teary-eyed, and we had a young girl in Edmonton, Alberta, up in Canada, most recently a couple of weeks ago when we were there doing a show, and she came backstage to say hello, and she was almost shaking in tears. She'd been so moved by what she'd just seen, and it's kind of a sobering reminder of kind of what this is and how special it is to people. And it's definitely special to me, but we've done like 76 shows, and
but it's nice to be able to bring that kind of stuff to the fans. I mean, that was one of the best parts for me with Hyrule Historia, was just like seeing all of the people lined up for the book, and even though I'd been slogging away on it for about a year, it was nice to be able to give that to these fans who really, I don't know, that just, I don't even know how to describe it.
Yeah.
No, that's it.
It's great. It's cool. Let's take another question. It's an important one from Stephanie. Where can I get tickets to the show?
That is a good one.
That is probably the most important question. You can go to zelda-symphony.com. You can click on the New York date or any other date that might look like it's close to you, or you can search on Ticketmaster.com. We have the Ticketmaster links directly on the website, so just check that out. Let's see. My favorite game is from Scott Montanero. My favorite game is by far Link to the Past. How much of the Symphony would you say is dedicated to Link to the Past and each game in general? Well, the Symphony itself, we decided that the best approach to bringing Zelda to concert was not doing a bunch of one-offs where it's kind of a grab bag of greatest hits. We really wanted to recreate we wanted the show to kind of be a portal to your past and allow you to relive some of those moments. And so and in a cinematic way, we wanted to make it bigger than life, better than you remembered. And so we organized the show into a 4-movement symphony. And so we kick the show off with an overture. Then we go into some interludes, which are just kind of bridge the gap between the beginning of the show and the actual main program. And then we go off and hit a prelude that introduces the entire audience to the world of Hyrule and how the goddesses came down and created the land and left the Triforce behind, and all the
lore and
yeah, all that great fiction that makes Zelda what it is, and then we just right off the bat hit off with Ocarina of Time, which is which at the time was the kind of the origin story of the Zelda franchise.
Mm-hmm.
And Nintendo, we were toying with the idea of going in and retconning the whole symphony and making a Skyward Sword movement, but Beethoven or Mozart, they don't go back and add movements to their symphonies, so we decided to kind of leave it as is for now.
They didn't have to deal with continuity.
Yeah, they didn't, and but we fit some Skyward Sword in there. Movement 2 is all about the Wind Waker, and then the third movement is Twilight Princess, and the fourth movement focuses. The fourth movement is the finale of the symphony, and it focuses on A Link to the Past. Each movement's about 10 to 12 minutes long. So, and then all the content on either side of the symphony itself just kind of fills in the gaps that didn't necessarily belong within the context of the story, but are still important to what make the franchise what it is.
And it might be sort of important to say that there are visuals that go along with the Symphony as well.
Yep.
That's help move the story along.
It's all beautifully timed and synced with the orchestra. In fact, what you're witnessing on stage, we've carefully integrated a lot of Hollywood technology that is used to record film scores. Getting back to my geeky soundtrack infatuation, but it's what is used to record orchestral film scores to live to picture. So when you go and see the Avengers and you're hearing Alan Silvestri's orchestral score, this is the process that they went through to record the music in perfect sync with the picture. And what you're seeing is a reproduction, kind of a reenactment of that kind of process, except we're doing it live on stage. And you're basically a studio audience. And we're not recording it, unfortunately. But hopefully that answered Scott's question. We love A Link to the Past. You guys have any questions, or what's popping around in your mind?
Well, to go back to your comment about people being moved to tears during the shows, I kind of want to just drive from Richmond, Virginia to New York and pay the price of admission just to see like a room full of Link cosplayers cry. That sounds awesome. I mean, like in the best way. No.
Yeah. Matt. Well, put your Link costume on because you'll be moved to tears.
I'll have my Twilight Princess costume on. Thanks.
It's fun. It's a lot of fun.
That's awesome. Do you guys talked a little bit about continuity? Is that something you've had to deal with? Like, have there been any like continuity like nerds who are just like, no, this isn't right?
Well, here's the deal. You're dealing with a very linear experience when it comes to a concert series, like and kind of programming a concert. So, Chad Sider and I, when we sat down, he's our music director. When we sat down to kind of draw up the blueprints for this, we joked around and we were like, all right, the timeline. Here we go. We're going to have to sort of condense this down to its most base form so that it can move from beginning to end, and we can kind of tell this story without keeping the audience. It can't be a choose your own adventure. The show can't operate that way. So we can't keep people in the main auditorium, and then if you want to go to timeline, the child timeline, you go to the room on the right, and the adult timeline, you go to the room on the left. That would be probably the most convoluted and expensive symphonic experience ever devised. In fact, I kind of want to try it, but I don't think anyone would fund that.
I would totally go to it.
I smell Kickstarter.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
That's but continuity-wise, we actually had gotten started on the show and how we wanted to organize it with the timeline in mind before the Hyrule Historia had been released. And but being kind of the geeks that we are, and as much as we love the Zelda franchise, we gave it our best, and taking all the theories and everything, how things are tied together, into consideration, we put it in an order that we felt made sense, and submitted that to Nintendo, and it came back with a thumbs up, which was incredibly validating. And then the Historia was released in Japan, and we started seeing translations pop up from the fan sites, and it was cool because we were finally able to see, like, okay, cool, we're actually on the right track. It was way more complicated than we imagined, but
that's certainly true.
But yeah, it was cool to know that the show that we had built was indeed faithful to the franchise, which is what is kind of a guiding light for us.
Yeah,
So,
I would hope that you would not get any guff for continuity, because like if you write a comic book, people can complain, or you do a cartoon, people can complain, but you did a symphony. It's like, hey, you write a symphony if you don't like the way we did it.
well, I mean, there would be a way. There are ways to screw it up. I mean, it's definitely it definitely needs to be done thoughtfully, and there is a continuity within the Zelda franchise, much to many people's chagrins. But it exists, and I think it's actually really fascinating and really cool. It's fun to see where they take it and what's going to come next.
Well, the interesting thing I think about the timeline is that I know that before Hyrule Historia was released in English, that there were people that were pretty resistant to it. But like Jaron was saying, I think that it enriches the universe in that you can sort of draw connections between the games and see what has come out of the other games as well. But you can also play all of those games without knowing the timeline, and they're just as a fulfilling experience. But if you do know the timeline, then you can go into Hyrule Castle in Wind Waker, and you can see like, oh, that's the Hero of Time statue, and you can see all the sages in the stained glass and whatever else, and you can connect it to previous continuity, and so it makes it a larger universe. And for big fans, I think that's a really fun little bonus. But it's not necessary. And once the timeline actually came out and people saw it and saw where they were going with it, a lot of the critics really stopped talking about it. It just wasn't a big deal.
So, yeah, no, definitely. Let's see. Is there another question that we can answer?
I'm curious, real quick, what your favorite soundtrack is from the Zelda games. Like, which particular game resonates with you?
I have kind of my top. They were kind of my top 3 Zelda games. It's
Wait, let me guess.
Oh, okay.
Link to the Past. Ocarina.
No.
Twilight Princess.
Yes.
And then I don't know what the third one is.
And Wind Waker.
Wind Waker. That
So,
makes sense.
probably my favorite of all 3 of those is Twilight Princess. I feel like A Link to the Past is kind of the Rosetta Stone for the entire franchise musically, and because that's where Kondo-san established all of the important melodies for the franchise beyond the ones that already existed with the first game, which were the fairy fountain theme from the select screen and the main theme from the overworld, and you got an item. So I mean, there were a few takeaways from that game, but Link to the Past really kind of put in concrete a lot of things that have perpetuated themselves. And I mean, you dial up every game since A Link to the Past, and you're going to find hints to, or references to those melodies throughout. And Twilight Princess for me. Twilight Princess for me was it. I loved A Link to the Past. That wasn't my first Zelda game, but that was the first game that I completed from beginning to end and felt like I understood and was smart enough to beat. and I felt like I really had that one figured out. And Twilight Princess really got to the idea of kind of the light world, dark world. It introduced a lot of concepts that were present in A Link to the Past, and then kind of smashed them together with all the things that made Ocarina of Time work.
Yep.
And so it kind of really brought what my idea of Hyrule was to life. And the music, just to this day, the music for me is beyond Wind Waker, I think, really kind of set the trend. But Twilight Princess is probably the most consistent score for a Zelda game. There were 3 composers on that game: Koji Kondo, Asuka Odi, and why am I blanking? I say this all the time. Bullshit. I'm nervous. Leave me alone. These three talented composers, they came together and weaved together just a really consistent, entertaining, melodic, most importantly, cinematic score. And from beginning to end, it just was satisfying to me in every way. So, yeah.
And I guess for me, I think that my favorite of the soundtracks is probably A Link to the Past, and the reason being, I really loved the game, the original game, The Legend of Zelda. I loved the music in it, and then the jump from 8-bit to 16-bit was so huge in my life, and that when I, put the cartridge in, and everything just seemed more robust. It seemed like this is the familiar theme that I was, that I loved just a few years ago, but it just seems fuller and more orchestral, and like the visuals that went along with it. It just seemed like the upgrade from like a black and white television to a color television. It just blew me away. So that's what sticks with me the most.
Yeah. Well, I guess we have to. Toru Minagishi. Sorry.
Yes,
There he is.
nailed it.
I guess we need to wrap up for this hangout. We're going to be doing one for Boston in a little while, but we have some prizes to give away. So we're going to be giving away a copy of Hyrule Historia, signed by Mr. Patrick Thorpe, and
I guess I'm signing it.
and that's a retweet. That's a retweet contest. So I think if you log on to Twitter and check out MSG's Twitter feed right now, you'll be able to see details on that. And just be sure to get tickets for our show on November 1st at 8 p.m. at the theater at Madison Square Garden. It's going to be an epic event. And those of you who've seen Symphony of the Goddesses before, come out again. We've got a lot of great new material with Second Quest. We look forward to seeing you. Mark, thank you for joining us. Matt, thank you, and Russ, thank you. We hope to see you out there too. So
Yeah, definitely, guys.
Yeah, it's great meeting you.
Yeah, thanks for having us, guys.
Yeah,
Definitely.
Thanks for letting us join in.